Good afternoon and welcome to NFTs Live. I'm your host, Tyler D. It is Friday, March 11th, and we are coming off a big week in the NFT space. We're seeing green on the board. Sentiment is almost overwhelmingly positive, and the rumor mill is swirling. I've got Brett Richey on with me today to break it all down. Brett, how you doing?
Doing good, Tyler. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. So on deck for today, we've got Bored Ape Yacht Club and their KYC, and then the rumor mill that's been going wild for the last 24 hours and the impact on Meebits. We're going to talk Gutter Mania and the juice and the clones coming out. Then we'll do a quick macro look at the OS Dune Analytics board and Flips Finance. We'll take a look at market movers hitting CyberBrokers, Dower Darcels, Quirkies, and a few more. Then in one-on-ones, we're going to highlight Anima today and talk his transhumanism style. Then we'll do floors at WGMI. We'll talk some Celeb NFT news featuring Lebron and Sia, and then end with Beanie's return and his project Endgame. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get started. So top story, everything Bored Ape Yacht Club and Yuga Labs. So we'll start with a tweet from yesterday afternoon, 5 p.m. Fuck it again. Something is brewing.xyz. That was the tweet. And then they had a few additional comments here explaining what this is and what it's not. So they're saying it's been building over the last 7 months. It's in partnership with Animoca. It's the first phase of something. Then they say, P.S., we don't like KYCs either, but we think you're going to want to be a part of this. And then they say a few things that it's not. So first, this is not the P2E game that they've been planning and hinting about. And it's also not related to the ape token itself. So, of course, immediately thousands of people go to this website, somethingisbrewing.xyz, and it is essentially requires a KYC form. So you have to enter documentation, their driver's license or a passport, your home address, and a few other details to get access to this site. So this set the NFT Twitter sphere just on fire. It started a huge debate of, the deepest ethos of Web3, privacy, anonymity, and the overall vision for decentralization in crypto and NFTs. And we've seen a lot of arguments, both sides. I guess, Brett, what was your initial reaction, take on BAYC coming out with, this KYC request here?
I think it's totally fine. What I didn't like as much was the level of strictness of the KYC, where you need like proof of address, right? Especially in crypto, you don't necessarily want to be doxing where you live to a random company. I'm fine with KYC. I think it's actually a positive. If you think about it, it's really easy for sophisticated users to spoof hundreds, thousands of addresses, right? Like if there was some sort of no KYC Bored Ape kind of sign up thing, right? Some guys might have 1,000 entries in this or whatever. So if you're a regular sort of retail player, I would actually be like, okay, I like the aspect of KYC that it's going to be sort of like one person to an account. You can't fake 1,000 people, but you don't need to know where I live. So I would have rather seen like a more scaled back version, driver's license or something. Although I guess that obviously shows address, but maybe passport. I don't know. I think I'm not like anti KYC. It's just I don't need the super intensive one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of negative feedback immediately was there's no information on why people were to submit their KYC. Like this is the definition of a FOMO sign up page.
Yeah,
here, go to this link, give us your information, and then something will happen. We think you're going to want to be a part of this. Is essentially what they said.
That's a testament to the Bored Ape brand, because almost any other project that did this would face like severe backlash. Like, why are we giving you this info? And Bored Ape, I guess, they become so valuable. People are like, well, maybe I'll get rich if I do this too. So they don't mind as much.
I have a few thoughts on the deeper privacy Web3 debate here. So certainly you've got folks on one side, like, Fubar, DC Investor, who were coming out pretty heatedly saying, the ethos of Web3, decentralization, anonymity, this goes against everything and that Web3 was supposed to be about. This is a terrible day for the NFT and crypto space. Then you've got folks like Jimmy.eth on the other side saying this was always the evolution process. And for us to get to any type of a mainstream audience, this was the path forward. And it still goes back to the whole concept of this is a decentralized space with centralized companies that have to operate within, regulations of the countries that they operate in.
It's Fantasyland, this first version of, it's Web3, you can do whatever you want with like stateless borders, and like that's just not the world we live in. And if you do want to reach the more retail audience, the mass audience, you got to play ball with the governments a bit. Like you can't just be this pirate ship off in the wilderness and you're just going to get these, billions of users. It's just, world's not going to work like that.
I think another comment on this is a lot of those accounts on the one side of the spectrum have been famously bear ship posting, every day, talking about how all of our bags are going to zero, how utility is going to zero, and it's a fad. And then we've got brands trying to build real Web3 products and companies taking the logical progression step to do KYC, and then they're flooding it. So it's like, yes, you can have your art, you can just sit on your art for the rest of your life, and that's fine. I think my last point on all this is I do see that there could be a potential future where there's two split groups or factions in Web3 NFT crypto, where it's the ones who obliged by the KYC and those who don't, and we can almost see certain products kind of cater to each of those markets. What are your thoughts on that? You think that's pie in the sky?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so Bored Ape is a US company with doxed founders, multi-billion-dollar company. It makes a ton of sense that they're going to want to do things by the book, right? A year ago, it was like 4 friends that just started a project. I don't think they had any expectation it was going to be this successful. When you run it up like that, you're kind of, self-preservation is going to be their goal to some extent. Like they're not going to go take wild swings at doing something that could draw the ire of the US government. You then have more like anonymous offshore teams that are going to have a much higher risk tolerance in that regard, because they don't have a $1 billion company to protect. And if you're not in the US, if you're anonymous, it's a lot easier to do some of these things, because the government, they will, like some of these people that are doing things right now are going to get in trouble with the government. Sure. Whether it's adding tokens, whether it's pump and dumps, whether it's, just straight up scamming, like there's people that are going to get in trouble.
And what's funny is you mentioned Yuga swinging for the fences. Well, they might be swinging for one of the biggest fences in the space. So let's get to our next topic on the rumor mill. So things kind of started around Meebits trading action yesterday. So in the early afternoon, a few big influencer accounts like Tropo Farmer were buying Meebits, and Tropo Farmer, a famous ape holder, anti-Meebit. So people thought this was interesting and strange. Then we had accounts like Farouk buying in, just pure copy trading. Meebits were the #1 performer on the day with respect to volume. The floor ripped all the way up to 5 ETH at one point before retracing to 4 here today. So the first rumor was Yuga Labs is going to buy Meebits. Then I saw a rumor that Lebron was going to buy Meebits, which is just totally out in left field. And then today, the latest rumor is Yuga Labs is going to buy all of Larva Labs IP, punks, and Meebits included in this package. Which this is just a jaw dropper type announcement if this is actually true, and it would have probably send shockwaves through the NFT space. So I think first, are you buying this rumor?
I'm not buying it. It doesn't make sense to me from either side. I don't see any world in which Yuga Labs would be the highest bidder for these assets. However, I remember when PokerStars sold, it was a forced sale by the government, but PokerStars, for whatever reason, chose they were going to negotiate with only one party at a time. So that's how I see this could happen, is if Yuga had some sort of exclusive window to negotiate with Larva, or if Larva was just like, you know what, we're making so much money no matter what, we're going to work with these guys. But I don't see how they could possibly be the highest bidder Meebits to me are like worthless for you. They could spin out their own another set and make money instead of paying money for it doesn't make sense.
That was my initial reaction too. And for the record, I'm not going to buy this announcement until I actually see it. It seems too unbelievable to me. And we know how rumors can spin in the NFT space. But I mean, Meebits is 80,000 market cap project by floor price. Of course, that's probably on the low end. The dogs are 2x Meebits, right? Or I guess it's the same because they're 10,000 versus 20,000. But the point is, they could drop mutant dogs and next week and raise this amount of capital. So that's what's so surprising to me.
In Meebits alone, I don't think have any kind of brand for the most. It's pretty weak, right? It's larva, it's punks, where the real value is in this IP. So obviously, if punks is included, but even then, larvas as punks, and it doesn't make any sense. And why would they pay anywhere close to what somebody else that wants footing in this game would pay? I don't see how that's possible. So unless they have some exclusive bidding thing and they got a deal, I don't buy it.
Yeah, and the projects are on the opposite ends of the provenance versus utility. Punks are the ultimate provenance. They can stand alone. They don't need tokens, utility. They'll stand the test of time. That's the whole thesis behind them. Whereas Yuga Labs is the ultimate utility engine. We're going to keep driving more benefits to our users. So that's surprising. I have two questions for you. If this is true and this happens, is it good for punks? Good or bad?
Anything that's not larva is good for punks, in my opinion. Yeah, that'd be good.
That's an interesting take. I think a lot of folks think that some of the OG punks owners would potentially sell into that news. I haven't fully
enough buyers probably. The Yuga does a good job of I would bet on the floor going up. If punks sell to anybody at any point, I'm betting up.
Okay, I like it. Second, is this good for apes?
If this were to happen, no, I don't think it's good for apes. That's why another reason I don't see it happening. Like Adidas or something, there's so many options out there who could come in and pay more than what Yuga would be willing to pay for these assets. So, and again, if you're apes, they've done a great job with that ecosystem. Now you're basically getting somebody else's similar but different ecos. How does that fit in instead of continuing on your own roadmap? Maybe it's good for apes just because then they have it all. I wouldn't bet against them, but
yeah, I've seen arguments on both sides. I think that a lot of initial takes were the apes and mutants floors prices would come down, as probably pulling the other floors up a bit. But I think one of my original takes was this would make Bored Apes the alpha NFT, in my opinion. If their founding team raised enough equity through their project and brand to buy the most important NFT project collection out there, to me that makes them the new alpha. And I could see the value driving back to them more so to punks. And I think punks may be losing a bit of provenance in this transaction. I mean, it's definitely interesting. I think we've spent enough time on it. It's just a rumor at this point, but man, it's a fun rumor to talk through. All right, let's talk about something that actually happened this week. Gutter Mania. So Gutter Cat Gang did somewhat of a stealth announcement on Monday that they were going to come out with their gutter juice. It's essentially their version of cloning or mutants. It was a large supply. So they did 16,000 public sale in a Dutch auction and then 12,000 airdropped to owners. I just got a quick snippet from their Twitter page here just to give listeners who aren't familiar the way it'll work. So if you have a gutter cat, gutter dog, pigeon, or rat, you can use the specific clone juice for that species to make a clone version of the asset you have. So that's essentially for current holders. But then to introduce new owners, new buyers into the ecosystem, if you don't own an NFT, they'll essentially give you up a random combination of the mutant traits. And it seems like their overall objective was to be a lower cost entry to greatly expand their holder base, because Gutter Cat Gang started with just a 3,000 supply, 1,500 owners. It's not really a huge community. It seems to have been an overwhelming success. And I'm curious for your take on this. So the Dutch auction was 0.98 to start, egregiously high. It went all the way down to min price at 0.1, but it sold out in minutes at 0.1 with 16,000 supply. So that was pretty impressive. And then the floor has pretty much marched steadily up here. So we've seen 2,000 ETH traded, which is on essentially an edition collection at this point because they're all pre-reveal, and they've got a 0.175 floor, up 70% from mint. So pretty much a success. What's your take on how the Gutter Cat Gang executed this week?
I think they've done a great job. This was something I was fairly prepared for. Minted a decent amount of these. I've since sold them all for various reasons we'll get into, but I like this a lot. I think that this project, it's interesting. 28,000 supply is by far the biggest we've seen out of any kind of project with established traction. Meebits, CloneX, and the Mutant Apes at 20,000 were the previous higher ones. Those also came in at a much higher price tag. So this 28,000.1, I think is really interesting because the floor on the Gutter, I think the cheaper ones were like 1.5-ish, and the cats were 6 or so ahead of this. So it's an opportunity for even now, 0.175, where you can get exposure to this, whether you want to call them a blue chip or whatever, a very established, successful NFT brand, OG NFT brand, for pretty cheap. And I think there's enough participants in the space now that can support this level of supply. So to me, I wasn't like, oh, it's 28,000. A few months ago, I might have been like, 28,000, that's too much. I think this is a good experiment. And, we'll see how they execute, though. The reveal is still a long ways away.
Yeah, and I want to get into that, but before we get there, I have similar sentiments on the 28,000 supply. I love it. I said this on the Lucky Trader show yesterday, quoted Gary Vee, but NFTs don't have a supply problem, they have a demand problem.
Yeah.
And the Gutter Cat ecosystem clearly had enough demand for 28,000 of these vials. And I think big name marquee projects are taking note of that. I think we'll see a 100,000 supply project probably in 2022 with the right set. I mean, Gary Vee's doing 55,000 for VFriends too, so he's already halfway there. But I want to get into your reasons for selling and potential risks. So transparently, I minted 20 of these, but I'm holding. So I want to get your thoughts on why you're sold in some risks.
So I minted 12 of these. I sold them. So part of it was the space is very bipolar. A few days ago, the sky was falling, couldn't get a sale anywhere. There was no liquidity. Things changed very quickly. And now it feels like much more bullish in general, but that can change again. So one is like, to me, it's sometimes it's just nice to take a win. Okay. It's been kind of a dry run in a lot of NFTs, just slow dropping floors. So part of it's like, sometimes you just want to book a win. The other thing is, I had someone DM me asking if he should buy one. He's a fairly involved trader. He's got a Warps profile picture, like he's in the game. And I was like, I'd probably wait, reveal's not for a couple of weeks at least. And he's like, oh, really? I didn't know that. So I was like, a lot of people I think are just buying these, expecting they're going to get a dog or whatever this weekend. Then it's like, hey, they said weeks, okay, is what Gutter said for when this machine opens. So I don't know if the art isn't done or the website's not done, or they're deliberately just they're saying they're going to wait, and then it might be a under promise, over deliver type of situation. But Cool Pets, as we remember, that was a lot of excitement around the Cool Pets, and then they basically couldn't get the game up. They couldn't do everything was delayed, everything was pushed. So there's execution risk when dealing with this. So I was like, okay, with 2 weeks at least, most likely for reveal, a lot of people buying these don't realize the time frame is that long. A lot of things can go wrong in the space, like in terms of turning sentiment back bearish in that time. And there's execution risk on if they're going to be able to get this up and running. So I was like, I'm going to take the win. I like this. I'm looking to buy back in. ahead of reveal, closer to reveal. And even if I have to pay a higher price for like, oh, okay, I know when the reveal date is, it's only in a few days, I'm okay with that. But that was my logic. I definitely understand holding. I think this is a quality set. I think it's a good like long-term play. Gutter Cat has done a good job of executing overall, but that was my logic.
No, I think you nailed it. So, 2 weeks or however long it's going to be is just forever in the NFT space. Holding attention is going to be hard. I wouldn't bet that this 0.174 holds and doesn't dip in the next 2 weeks. Like that's just what happens in these time intervals. And of course, the execution risk is this team going to be able to pull off a game not many big products have yet. So that they would be one of the leaders if they're able to. So I certainly understand that. I think the difference between this and Cool Pets is Cool Pets was like a 1.5 ETH average entry.
Yeah.
So essentially 10x this. So
Yep.
to me, the risk reward on a 0.1 to 0.15 entry into this ecosystem, which clearly has a rabid fan base, is definitely worth it. I like the upside here. I specifically like the upside on the mutant cats. The mutant cats are sitting at 0.58, 0.6 or so right now. The gutter cats are around 5.8. I think it's reasonable to expect that they get to 1/5, puts them at 1.2. That's essentially the mutant to BAYC ratio. I could see them getting closer. In a lot of ways, the art on some of these looks like it could be cooler than
the art. So that's the other thing. The art looks awesome. Like there's the one cat is an aquarium body, which looks really cool. But again, it's like we've seen 5 or 6 different teasers. There's 28,000 of these. So there's execution risk on the actual reveal. Because 6 look awesome. How are 28,000 going to look? Like, how do the worst 1,000 look when you're looking at the floor of a set? So I like this project. If the reveal were this weekend or something, I would never have sold,
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to FUD this by any means. I would like to get in again before reveal.
No, very fair take. All right. So we'll be watching and tracking Gutter Juice pretty closely here on the show. Let's finish our top news. I want to do macro real quick. Shouldn't be a huge shocker for anyone who's been following NFTs here. Daily volume, daily candles, pretty much down only since February 1st. A lot of folks started calling it out in the early February days. I wasn't quite a believer back then, but those folks called it out. We've basically taken the stairs down to $50 to $60 million a day. That's where we're coming in at here this week, although it looks like today has already been a huge day. So we're at 50 million here with about a third of the day left UTC. So today should be an up day, which is good to see. But I think what's positive about this, so daily liquidity is down. That's bad, right? 50 million is as low as we got in the 2021 November bear market when it was absolutely crickets. And like 100 million to me is a good day, bullish indicator day of liquidity. But what's been positive to me is that the floors are largely up. Yesterday, I took a look at the top 20 projects by floor price on flips, and 9 of the 20 were up on the 7-day, and almost all are up on the 24. So it's an interesting time where liquidity is low and the projects are up a bit. So I'm feeling cautiously optimistic, but we know how this space can drop and change on a dime. What's your overall sentiment right now and kind of where we're at, Brett?
Yeah, cautiously optimistic, I think nails it. For me, I'm looking to I'm fine being mostly in NFTs. What I'm looking for is stuff that I don't mind holding long term. I've definitely been playing some shorter term stuff recently, to varying degrees of success, and I'm just looking to basically move on quickly when it's something I don't believe in, and I'm sort of just trading it for the short term. There's times where I've kind of got stuck in something when I wasn't really I wasn't buying it because I was just playing Greater Fool Theory or something, and I ended up as the Greater Fool. So I'm being a little more active with exiting a project early on. Even if you have to take a loss there, I think that's a healthy behavior to sort of build that that ability. And then again, there's other stuff that I like long term that I'm accumulating.
Yeah, I like that strategy a lot. Bear market, move to your higher conviction plays, have quick triggers on cutting losses quickly.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm paying a lot of attention to the lower entry projects right now with good founders, good teams that have some kind of proven track record. products like Degens, the ghetto juices we talked about, warps. Those are all below 0.3 entries with good teams. So your downside is fairly capped versus even, chasing an Azuki. Yeah, Azukis are down at 9 ETH. It wouldn't shock me if they went down to 5, right? If the bear market continues, another few weeks or a month, right? So to me, that's a riskier bet right now than some of these lower.
What are warp stones at? They're 0.28. So I can get like 15 of those, or 20 of them are in Azuki, like 30. I don't even know how many. I can't even do the math right now. It's too many. That's my strategy though. I don't buy the higher price ones. I think the most I ever spent on an NFT was like 7 something ETH. And I kept that for a day. So I think the highest one I still have is 5.5 for a Wicked Cranium. Still like that guy. I'd much rather get 20 pieces of a cheap set than one like expensive thing. It's higher risk, higher reward in a lot of ways.
Totally agree. Well, let's take a look at the 7-day movers here and get into our market segments. So CyberBrokers is definitely the top story of the week. It minted last Friday at a 0.35 ETH mint price. It's been pretty much up only. It ran all the way to mid 4s, might have touched 5. I think one individual did a 1,000 ETH sweep. We see 14,000 ETH traded on the 7-day. I'll quickly show their OpenSea page here. So this is Josie Bellini's project. We did a pretty full breakdown on yesterday's Lucky Trader show with Lou. So I'll direct folks over there for more detail. But I think I'm not surprised with a bit of a healthy pullback here. I mean, it basically went straight from 0.5 to 4.5, just up 20 to 30% per day. And it's since retraced a bit. I guess, have you been following this one? Have you thought about entering, or are you setting this one out?
I saw it at 2 or whatever, and I was like, I'm not hopping on a new project at 2, and then it ran to 4 something, I think, maybe higher. Yeah, it's just not my style. Is this? It's cool. I don't love when it's like everyone, it's the first on chain something or other. Like I remember a lot of those stories going around in the art blocks days, it's the first this or that. And ultimately no one cares really. Punk's, a lot of their running was claiming to be first when they weren't even close to first in anything they claimed. So I think it's cool. I just, some of the like shilling of this raised like slight red flags to me from the people doing the shilling. I think it's cool, but I'm not paying 10K for these.
I think the risk that I see is, one, they don't make great PFPs. I'm not seeing a whole lot of broker PFPs on Twitter right now. And I think a factor that a lot of people are putting in their bull thesis is that OG collectors are behind this project and touting it. Well, I'll counter that with, I don't think OG collectors are good for new community project building, because they've got their own bags. They care about their own things. They're probably working on 5 or 10 other things in the background. They're not going to be an active cyber broker, brand ambassador. And I haven't
every
seen
OG was in Toads. We saw how that worked.
Yeah. So I'm on the sidelines, but man, it's been a big run for them in a great week.
I like them. Don't get me wrong. I'm just, I'm not paying 3 whatever ETH here. It's just started brand new. Just not my style to pay that high of a price for a brand new project.
I'm with you. Another huge winner on the week, and one that I've just been watching and not participating in, is the Dower Darcels 4,600 ETH, 0.94 floor, up 145% on the week. We'll quickly show their page. The art here is just the large singular eyeball with different fashion and traits onto it. Man, I was never buying into this one, and I've been a little bit surprised that it's run this far. You share those sentiments, or are you?
So certain projects that really move. I looked at this at 0.15 or some, whenever, like right after the sale, it was very low. I forget the exact price point, and I passed, and like I have zero like FOMO or regret, because it's just a play I would never make. To me, the eye is like a little creepy. It's like I'm looking here and I'm still just like, all these just eyes are just staring at me. So this is something that I would have never gotten. And so It's not like there's something I did wrong or like something I missed. It's that project 100% of the time is just gonna be a miss for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then another one I missed, and I also don't fully understand it, is Quirkies. So Quirkies is the biggest winner of the week, I believe, up 195% to a 1.4 ETH floor. I want to say that floor was 1.8 at one point yesterday evening. You know, we see the art here. It's similar to Dented Fields or the Weather Report. I think those projects had a little bit of FUD around the artist. Maybe that rotated some money back over to this project. It's a 5,000 supply. I don't know. It's been interesting watching these two projects run. It's clear, you know, the projects can do well in bear markets. We've seen that. There's tons of green on the board, but it feels transitory to me. And what I mean by that is I wouldn't be chasing these run-ups on these projects right now unless you've got a real belief or thesis in them long term. And I definitely don't have that just yet.
Yeah, I would never. I looked at that too. They also Alien Friends. They see the eyes. They kind of they. I mean, I don't. Whatever projects take inspiration from other projects, but like, under no that's just not the play for me. I'm not buying in here. I wouldn't have bought in before this run up on the Quirkies either. So that again, that's another project that's just gonna be a miss for me 100% of the time.
What I do want to end with here is Invisible Friends. They did 3,700 ETH this week. They're at a 7.69 ETH floor, up 18%. I think that's a massive win for them. I think everyone was just waiting to victory lap Invisible Friends having the exact same price arc as Hape and Mecca, you know, coming out of the gate at 8 or 9 and then slowly going down to 1 or 2. You know, I think both you and I thought mid fives was probably the bottom here, and that's proven out. Though I'm also a bit surprised to see it in the mid 7s here in this low liquidity market. What's your take on IF?
I think that I think the comparisons to Hape and Mecca were always ridiculous because Marcus, the Invisible Friends creator, has been around forever. DK, one of the biggest probably the biggest animation NFT creator behind Let's Walk and some very expensive one-of-ones, was like, Marcus is one of my inspirations, right? I've been following this guy's work forever. So he had a track record coming in. It wasn't just vaporware hype where you just pump up an Instagram and nonsense. So I think that was a very easy like differentiation to make. Like, this is a legit project. I like Invisible Friends quite a bit. You know, again, I just don't shop at this price point really, especially on a new project. I'm not surprised to see it holding in there, but you know, if I'm spending this amount of money on something, you know, either it's a long-term conviction hold or it's something where I'm going to want the liquidity to like move quickly. I don't see this running up to a point where like it's not a short-term flip. I don't think. I don't see it going like 12 soon. But I mean, yeah, impressive project.
Yeah. Shout out to holders. I'm happy for them that it's doing well. All right, let's get into our next segment, one-on-ones. So I'm just going to highlight one artist here today that's really just kind of come across my radar this week. It's Anima. It's ANYMA is the artist's name here. His style is transhumanism, and he does collaborations with Alessio, and he's got a vault here. So I'm showing 3 pieces on his homepage, and then the reason we're talking about him is this piece called Symbiosis that I'm showing here is his latest in this transhumanist style, and it commanded quite a high sale price, 50 ETH. This moved for here $128,000 to Avocado 123, making this one of the highest sales in the one-of-one art space that we've seen in the last few weeks for certainly a lesser known artist. What's really interesting to me is, and I'm still wrapping my head around this whole one-of-one super rare digital art game. The price arcs that I'm most familiar with is artists come in, they start building out their mint base, the number of pieces that they've published, what they've curated, and over time the prices move up as more big name collectors get in. When I see artists like this come in and their pieces are commanding 50 ETH right out the gate with just 3 in the total supply, it's a bit of a head scratcher. So I'm interested for your take on this. Not if you're buying or selling at 50 ETH, but generally just the situation here, with a new artist coming in and commanding these price points.
I mean, good for him. I would want to know more, like what's his, I'd check his Twitter out or whatever, and like see his track record. One thing is constantly, there's just a lot of people with just infinite money in this space too, right? So like that could have just been some guy that's like, I like it. Yeah, here's, let's fire 50 ETH at it. I mean, they're really cool, but like I'm not sophisticated enough as like an art critic to determine the value. Like it looks cool.
Yeah, watching this Eva Zero piece right now, it's one of the cooler pieces I've seen. I will also say that it's cooler because I know that someone paid 50 ETH for it.
Yeah, then it would be in any set. The art starts looking better as the price goes up.
That is our new rule of thumb. All right. Well, shout out to Anima. We'll definitely be following him as a new artist here. Definitely like this style. All right, let's quickly go through some floors here on WGMI. We've talked about a lot of these. CyberKong's Genesis is up top at 70.80 floor, down 1% on the week. Bored Apes are 73, down 12%. CryptoPunks are hanging in there at 68, basically even on the week. As we get into the next tier, the Mutants, they're up at 17, basically up. They're chopped on the week, up 1%. VFriends had a big week. They ran up to 18, but they're back to 14.75, essentially a chop. CloneX is at 11.4. Doodles 10.3, basically neck and neck. I'm going to pause there. Made a bet with Empire Maker 2 for those who are familiar with daily fantasy sports and sports betting on floor price end of year. I've got CloneX. He's got Doodles. Which side are you on, Brett?
I like your side. CloneX, I think it's a safer bet. You've got Nike and you've got Artifact, which by all accounts is an impressive team. They built this, they got acquired by Nike. So the execution risk to me is lower. I guess there's some risk that Nike kind of shelves it for whatever reason, but for the most part, I feel like CloneX is quite safe. Whereas Doodles, another very impressive project that's done well, but like they just did the spaceships. Didn't really move the needle. I guess it didn't move it in a bad way either. So it was all about priced in, but it's not Nike, it's not Artifact. It's Burnt Toast, who's a great artist. They do have a good team, but it's still a much smaller startup, right? So the startup is going to be much more volatile compared to this sort of incumbent big box company. So yeah. I would say that CloneX is safer, and when you're betting this sort of bet, you're looking for the safer play. You're not looking for upside necessarily, which I think they both have plenty of.
I like it. Hopefully, I'll win my first bet against Ian too. A few more.
He's pretty good at betting, so you never know. But
he is. I don't like to be on opposite sides of him. Azuki 8.8. They're down 14% on the week. World of Women at 7.9. They're down. Cool Cats. So got a question from a viewer. Cool Cats are at 7.45. They're at 5% on the week. Is it a good time to buy Cool Cats? I feel like I know your answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are you a Cool Cats buyer at 7.5 here?
I'm not, because who knows about this game? I just, when is that coming? I think that you can wait and you can get a better sense of, like, you might be better off paying 8 or 9 with the game out, because that eliminates a lot of the risk. Like your cat's going to get you the token. Like I can see a world where you're making solid money from this cat. Like if this game works, if it's popular, you can kind of wait. I think you can take a lot of risk out of the equation by just waiting. And I don't think they're just going to pop back up to 14 or whatever. So I think there's a window to get in if you do want to. That's how I would play it if I wanted.
Yeah, I think you're nicer than me. Not only am I not a buyer of Cool Cats at 7.5, I would be an active shorter if I had means to do so. I've got no confidence that they're going to be able to deliver this game or that it will be any good. So I'm not a buyer. If it gets down to 5, maybe I'd look at it.
I would. I'm not a buyer at any price until I see the game or whatever, and then reevaluate. Like I bought the cool pet to play. I sold it though, but yeah, I'll give them a shot if they pull it off, but I'm definitely not holding my breath on it.
I'm with you. Let's quickly go through the art blocks floors here, and then we'll move on. Fidenza's 51.7. I think that's the lowest number I've said on the show since we started, down 12% on the week. Ringers are at 38, down 12%, even though we saw some high-ish end sales. Where is Elevate? Oh, Elevate is number one on the board, 52.
No sales. They just stood flat.
Yeah, just by holding flat, they're now the number one art blocks project by floor price. How about that? Let's scroll through here. Archetypes at 11, they're down 6%. Subscapes at 7.8, down 18%. Squiggles at 7.4, slightly up on the week. It's ghost town.
Pals, Hideo, by the way, he just dropped a token to all holders of his art block sets today. He's building a game for his Legends of Mediterra set, and then he has a new drop coming in April that you need the tokens for. So I really like Hideo. He's pushing the boundaries beyond what I've seen most of the other art box artists do. He's got 4 different quite unique sets on there, and now he's using a token for the next drop, and he's building a game. So he's just somebody that I think is interesting, and especially like prices are down, liquidity is down. He's still shipping, he's still building, he's still making art. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself. It's only 100 supply, but 20 E4. It's the 4th highest art block set. So
and it's in factory, which usually gets not a lot of love from the higher end collectors.
Definitely. All right, let's move on. Quick celebrity NFT news segment, starting with LeBron. So the rumors that LeBron might be getting into NFTs revolve around these 4 trademarks that he filed for LeBron James, LeBron Chosen One, and King James, and they're related to crypto collectibles, virtual basketball courts, footwear, clothing, gear, and home furnishings. So it looks like LeBron might have some plans here for the NFT space. Additionally, this week, the Medici clan, there's dozens of them on Twitter. Bianca de Medici, the granddaughter of Cosmo in this fictional narrative that group is building, was revealed to be Sia, the musical artist, who has 2 million followers. In talks with folks who have actually talked to Sia about this, it seems like she's the real deal. She's been in the NFT space since 2017. She's an actual collector. She's got a picture of herself with a quilt of all the different PFP projects that she owns. And it's got dozens on there. And it seems like she's got real intentions to onboard folks into the space via education and whatnot. So I think this was pretty positive news, and was happy to see this here this week.
Yeah, all right, she's the real deal, it seems. And like, it kind of reminds me of Matt Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold, who's really into NFTs. Also, he's onboarded people into the space. Like if you're a wealthy person or a celebrity, even, well, wealthy, I think, has a better part to do with it. NFTs are a really fun hobby. I mean, regardless of your income, they're very fun for a lot of people. But I could see, like, a celebrity really can kind of get in there and have the ammo to experience the sort of wide range. So they're not going to be the last ones, coming in. You see NBA players, you see a lot of athletes, kind of just the tip of the iceberg, I feel, in that regard.
Absolutely. Just the tip of the iceberg for the Medici family, who's got dozens of accounts. So I'm sure we'll start to see more calculated reveals there. All right, last story for today. I got to talk about Beanie and Endgame. This is the most excited I've been for a project in quite some time. It has been a master course on marketing campaigns. Beanie, love him or hate him, he is back. So he's been back on Twitter for about a few weeks now. He kind of came out of the gate hyping free mints, even though, of course, he's made as much money on paid mints as anyone in this space. So he's kind of changed his tune. He's talking up free mints. That caught some attention. He did a weird week where he was only talking about metals and commodities and saying all NFTs were going to zero. I'll put that aside for now. But just yesterday, he came out, or 2 days ago, he started teasing Endgame, this new project. It's going to be his last one, his last effort in the NFT space to hopefully go out on top. He had a movie-like poster with a Putin-type character as a villain. Then yesterday, he made headlines in the NFT space with this poster. Heroes work together. in game, this villain will burn up spaces, and the villain is none other than Farouk. Farouk commenting on the thread, even saying that this is in fact him. What's been your reaction to in game in this marketing campaign?
I mean, Beanie is, in my opinion, a malicious actor in this space. He's done a lot of bad actions and finally got called out for it. So you mentioned Tropo Farmer earlier, who worked very closely with Beanie, and he pretended like he was blindsided. Like, buddy, we're not morons, okay? Come on, you knew, but whatever. I don't care. Like, if you like, that's what you're saying, right? Like Beanie, like this is a guy you can make money with. He's a scumbag, but people have gotten completely burned, and then there's people who've made outrageous returns with this guy. So if you know what he is, it's going to be insane pump and dumps, and the crash is going to be legendary when they come. We've seen his projects go to multi-ETH floors, like Bloot, the token moon to over $1. Okay, it's 0-0 basically. So to me, if I play with, if I'm involved in this, I'm playing greater fool theory game. This is not a person. I talked earlier about like long-term conviction plays. Nothing he's involved with, I have long-term conviction in. He's essentially, a very selfish actor. He's looking to extract, as much money for himself, and he doesn't mind fucking people over. So, and funding other projects, he'll lie. Like, this is not an honest person, and so he's not somebody I have any interest in, like, long-term. Remember, we did Monkey Bet, right? The Monkey Bet casino. Exact same thing as Look Labs. Look, they've built this great company. They have everything built, and it was just scam. So he's run this exact same playbook before on a casino instead of now a play to earn metaverse type thing. I don't believe him. I don't believe that this team has all this stuff built. I don't believe any of it. But I'll play the greater fool theory game with them.
Yeah, I share all your sentiments and definitely not endorsing any of Beanie's actions. I like the upside on the free mint for in-game, and I do think this marketing campaign and this comic book-esque world that he's building, it's just something that he seems to be has always been a part of his vision with Pixel Vault, is very interesting. You mentioned Look Labs, so clearly Beanie is tied in some way to Look Labs. They've got a few NFTs out there already. Their Green Pass, their OG Pass, they've since doubled since Beanie's in the mix. So clearly the Beanie effect.
In my opinion, he's
real.
pumping Look Labs for whatever reason, right? He's tying them to this. So this isn't going to be a free mint, right? Because Look Labs floor is 0.64. There's 10,000 of those. So my guess is you need that. Maybe he does something with his older projects, with Monkey Bet, with Bloot, which all went to 0. That's possible. He has the Pixel Vault, which is his, which has the meta heroes too. And now it's like a free version of this. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. Again, he's not a trustworthy person, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm not rushing to buy into Look Labs just because Beanie's shilling it. That to me, historically, has been a catastrophic decision to buy after a pump into a Beanie project.
I'm with you. I do want to just briefly talk about this green paper from Look Labs on their 420 game. So I sat out Wolf game because it was tied to Beanie and just watched that market explode. This has similar making. So I read through this green paper. I skimmed it yesterday. I'm not going to go through all the details, but it's a P2E game, and like the weed is the overall theme. You're trying to get to an end goal of owning a weed shop. You earn a token. It's called the high token. So you get an idea for what this theme is. There's breeding. There's staking. There's going to be a bit of game theory. So to me, this feels very Wolf game-esque. This project is doing a mint this weekend. I'm trying to find the table here. If we get down to the bottom, where is it? Right.
Shout out to Frederick Levins over at Look Labs, my former tripped out Leo enthusiast. I wish Look Labs well. I just personally don't like Beanie.
So yeah, it looks like here's the mint date is March 12th, 420 Eastern, of course, 20,000 supply, 0.042 ETH to get into the game. OGs and the pass holders have a free mint window as well. Some folks are speculating that owners of either the Look Labs tokens, those passes, or even the Weed Buds might have a shot at the free mint. So just passing that information along, of course, NFA, do IOR, but this will be a pretty highly anticipated game, in my opinion.
If it even comes out, a Beanie, everyone can promise the moon. We see it every day in this space. I'll believe it when I see it mode with anything related to that guy.
Very fair. Brett, that's all I had on my list. Anything on your list to cover here before we close?
That's a good way to go out. Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, thanks as always for joining me. To the listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. We will be back next Friday to recap the weekend NFTs. Till then, stay safe out there. Bye.